Hi there.
Hey, Susie.
I sent an email about the Board of Health thing to you late this afternoon.
Yep, I didn't read it, but I had already talked to AJ. So.
Okay. We could put it off for another week if we need to, or 2 weeks.
Okay. Any word from Melissa? No. Just wait another minute.
Becky, is there I just have a question. Is there a easier or a better way, or can you do the ARPA report differently? I don't know. I have trouble.
Sure.
You know, it's printing out on 2 pages and it's really hard to, it's hard to follow.
Yeah, I couldn't print it on, what's the, horizontally. I don't know why.
Right, landscape. Yeah.
Landscape, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, yeah. And then it just makes it really, I'm sort of cutting and pasting here. Try to follow it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it would do that. I can't figure that part out. There's Melissa.
Oh, good. Hi, Melissa.
I thought I saw her, didn't I see her?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm right here.
Hi,
oh,
Melissa.
there you are.
Okay. All right, let me just get all my stuff straight here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard, and today is the 23rd?
21st.
First. Yes.
Getting ahead of myself here. March 21st, 2022, and the meeting is being held remotely via Zoom.
It's
so,
2023, point of order. Now you're behind yourself.
I've been in a different time zone the last few days.
Really?
And with wee ones, so
Yeah.
my head's not quite there. Thank you for that correction. All right, so the first item is to review the agenda, which I will do. We're going to have public comment, as we always do. We have 1 set of minutes from February 14th. Then we have a request for additional ARPA funds for task amendments for Lot 032. We have a couple of emails that we want to just review. Then the cost of living adjustment report. This is the email that we got from the county retirement? Is that...
Well, the finance committee had voted the
this is for our budget.
Yeah.
This is our budget. Oh, okay.
Our budget.
Okay. Because I knew that there was an email from about the...
Yeah, and we should probably talk about that at the same time or under my updates, because it just came. That's 2% request.
2 firefighter appointments, then talk about the existing highway MOU and kind of how we move forward with the Conservation Commission and the Highway Department. We're going to get a website policy update from the web committee. Declaration of snow emergency. 6:05, we're going to have a brief discussion about an opinion from outside counsel regarding the Shutesbury wetland bylaw, PFAS update, and then town administrator updates. Is there anything else, Becky, that I have
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So I want to open up the floor for public comment. And as always, I ask that you keep your comments to no more than 2 to 3 minutes and that you use the raised hand feature. So I see one hand. Bless.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Well, excuse me, my video is off because you don't want to watch me eating dinner.
We don't want to hear you eating dinner either.
Well, I'll try to keep the food out of my mouth while I'm talking.
Okay.
I have a couple questions or comments. I will make them as brief as I can. The first one has to do with the select board discussion of an opinion received from outside counsel regarding Shutesbury wetland bylaw at 6:05. To me, that's incredibly confusing. You know, what is being referred to? And is this opinion received from outside counsel from McGregor and Company? Is this from the council that's been advising the Conservation Commission? I think this should be made much more clear in an agenda so people know what's coming on the agenda itself. And I know you don't answer my questions right now or public questions right now, but I just want to put that on the table. I don't think that was very well done in terms of how that was listed on the agenda. My next question is, and this has to do with a question of priorities. And I note on the agenda that this discussion of the opinion goes on for 10 minutes. At least that's what it's scheduled for. And then there's a PFAS update, you know, at 6:15 for 5 minutes. And I'm just, you know, curious. To me, the PFAS, and I've mentioned this before in public meetings, is really a public health emergency and really should be treated as such. So I find it interesting that a discussion about an opinion from outside counsel takes 10 minutes, where the PFAS discussion is 5 minutes. And then speaking of the PFAS updates, I really think and recommend that those PFAS updates should be reported earlier on the agenda. And I think much more should be done and can be done by the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to give the whole community updates on what is going on with PFAS. Because I think before you know it, if there's not further disclosure from it, you're going to see a PIP, public involvement, a petition coming to you in the near future. So I don't think you want to spend a lot more time on another PIP. But again, unless you all start doing a better job of informing the public of what's going on with that, I think you're going to see one. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Les. Anybody else? Mary Lou?
Hi, yes, my name is Mary Lou Conca, and I just wanted to support every single word that Leslie just spoke. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Okay, any other comments? Mary Lou, could you put your hand down just?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other comments, and I think everybody's up on screen here. All right, so the next item on the agenda is to review the minutes from February 14th.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes from February 14th.
Is there a second?
I have one little change that I think the on page 5. I think it's a 100% statutory 5-year rolling average with guardrails. But the guardrails sentence is not in there, part of the sentence. That's all.
Okay, so we can make that change. What did you say, Eric, was on page 5?
Page 5, yeah.
Okay. Do you see that, Becky? Geneva is not here tonight, so she's
Yeah, no, I see it, and she's going to be using the recording to do the minutes. I just have a question for Eric. The guardrails are interesting because I don't believe, I mean, they're being instituted, but they haven't been voted by the town. I mean, by the towns. So it is part of the method, but it's interesting that it wasn't voted.
It wasn't voted last year either, or this year. I thought it was. I could be wrong.
No, I thought it was new. It was new last year. Remember they?
Yeah. But I assume we voted on it.
They went through more of an approval process and discussion and spent the summer discussing, but never came to a full conclusion. But the school committee is instituting it. It's just interesting that it hasn't formally been voted by the towns, but it is being used by the school committee.
I hear I wasn't up on that. Seems like it should be voted since we've now used it twice in a row.
Yeah, and I guess town meeting will have to vote it.
Okay.
Thanks. So there was a motion made. And
second. I'm sorry, second.
Any further discussion about the minutes from February 14th? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye. Okay, so we have a request for ARPA funds related to task amendment that's been submitted by Fussin O'Neill for work at lot 032. And I see Marianne Antonellis is here and April Dorosky, Marianne, our librarian, and April from Fussin O'Neill to assume to review this. And I don't know who wants to take the lead. The board received the task amendment dated March 13th, 2023. So there was a narrative and then a budget, which is really useful to see that the budget. And I don't know, Becky, can you put that up? Do you have that accessible? So the budget is the, I don't know, like 5th or 6th page, 2, 3, 4. I think it's the 5th page.
This isn't there. Yes, here it is. And it's Marianne, which page did you want me to start at? The first or the?
I would just go down to the fees page. I think that's what Rita is.
That's what I'm referring to, the fees page. Yep.
Yes, yeah, because I can then just sort of give some background information on the fees, and then when we get to the part that April's here to tell us about, she can take over. So you're going to share that, Becky? Is that?
1 second. It's just
okay. Okay.
Hold on a second. It's right here.
So I'll just start. I'll remind everyone that that Fussin O'Neill has done some investigative work and has filed phase 1 ISI and a tier classification on behalf of the town with Mass DEP, and we need them to continue helping us determine the perimeter and the extent of the gasoline release in the vicinity of the former Air Force radio tower. So this fee page, what we're looking at is TA7, so that the second to last column on the right-hand side, they call them task amendments. And this goes back, all the way to the beginning of our working with them back in July. But TA7 are the new task amendments that I'm asking the select board to fund using ARPA funds on behalf of the town tonight. And so let's see, 1, 2, 3, task 400. That's meetings and on-call services. That's fee of, they're budgeting $9,000. So that is, Becky, we're seeing other things on the screen now.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So task 400. So that's, when we have to call Fuss and O'Neill for professional guidance, or when they want to call us and recommend next steps or explain reports, or when we're asking them to attend meetings, such as this meeting tonight, because April is here, or meetings with the Conservation Commission, or the select board meeting last week. So that's what that task amendment is for. And then they're going to have to, this will be funding to help us with the PIP process, largely, and just the PIP process, up until we get through the rest of this fiscal year. And then task 1000, the second one from the bottom, additional groundwater investigation. So, and that's $17,900. And so so Tim Clinton is our LSP, and he has recommended doing seasonal groundwater sampling, and also spending another day installing additional wells. So once the, so in April, once the snow has melted, we'll have another day where they go out there and install wells and install more wells, and then they'll take more water samples and send those off for testing, so that they can gather the data they need to determine the appropriate next steps. And then task 1100. So this is a new task, wetland restoration notice of intent and oversight. So, and this is $16,900. So the Conservation Commission has asked the town to remove some historic fill from wetlands in 2 locations on Lot 032. And so that would require the town to file a notice of intent. And then this is based on making the having the highway department do the work. And April can describe, so April would make a proposal and recommendations about the work that the town should do to remove the historic fill. This is all fill that was from long before the town owned the property. And then do wetland restoration. So April can describe that.
Sorry, you kind of trailed off on the end there, but I can give a little bit more information on what that process would look like. Again, my name is April Drosky, and I'm the wetland scientist with Fuss and O'Neill, who's been on this project. We recently received the order of resource area delineation from the Shutesbury Conservation Commission, and during that process, the peer reviewer identified that there was these areas of historic fill in the bordering vegetated wetlands 2 and 3. And during that process, these areas, the commission felt, or has recommended that these areas be cleaned up. And in the wetland 2, it's essentially this pile that's now vegetated because it's been there for so long, but maybe 5 feet tall, 20 feet by 7 feet or so. And in the wetland 3, the extent of fill is less defined. And in order to restore this, the main task is to remove the fill. We take heavy equipment to do this work. And in the order that we received from the Conservation Commission, one of the findings were that the commission finds that both of these wetland areas need to be restored because of the historic fill. And so the two main tasks that are associated with this work are filing the notice of intent for the restoration work. So that includes creating a restoration plan with recommendations for plantings, having erosion controls, and attending Conservation Commission meetings and a site visit if necessary. Upon approval, the next step would be for the restoration to be conducted. And because of the extent of fill in that wetland 3, it requires a wetland scientist being on site so that it can be determined the extent of fill, how far that goes into the wetland, and make a determination to stop work when all the fill has been removed and be able to delineate the wetland boundary at that location, which right now cannot be determined because of fill.
Thanks, April. Questions, Eric or Melissa?
Well, I have two questions, I guess. One is, I assume the things related to Board 9 are things that we're going to try to get back from the Department of Defense, right? So we're going to lay out the money, but in theory, we're going to get some of that money back, or at least hopefully we are. Is that correct?
It's unclear whether or not it would be the Department of Defense that would pay for the costs associated with all this engineering and testing that we've done. But, you know, we have some other legal recourse from previous owner. So, but we're investigating that at the same time that we are investigating getting the Department of Defense to take responsibility for the cleanup. So, so there are costs, both that there are front-end costs now that we've already incurred, pretty significant front-end costs.
Yes.
And then there will be costs associated with the mitigation. So we're looking at all avenues to recoup the money that we've spent, and then to get somebody, the responsible party, to pay for the remediation.
The other question is with regard to the wetlands that April was talking about. That's not, I want to make that very clear. That's not anything to do with the library. It's just, that's on the town's dime, as it were. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So
just for clarity.
The wetlands, the cleanup and the restoration, yes, are the town's. The town is willingly going ahead and doing that, although we have been advised by our outside counsel, Gregor McGregor, that we're legally not required to do it because of the statute of limitations, but that we will have an opinion, a legal opinion about that, but that we are voluntarily going to go ahead and clean up the wetland, the debris that's there, and restore the wetlands. So that's what April's referring to, that BVW2, I think, and BVW3, and they're on kind of either side of the site.
Okay, thanks.
Melissa, any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
I think, before we vote on this, Becky, can you just give us, I know you sent out the summary of the of where we are with the ARPA funds, and it would be good to kind of see where we are now. We started out with 525,000. We've had a number of expenditures, the largest of which was for the elementary school roof, and then a number of other expenditures related to Lotto 32. So if we approve this $43,800, then the way I read it, because I'm operating off of 3 different sheets here, that the balance of ARPA funds would be $40,500. Is that correct?
That's what I'm reading off of this.
Okay. All right, so I just want to make that clear to everybody that we are reaching the end of the road with the ARPA funds. Okay, any other questions? I guess I just had one question, and I don't know, April, I know you're our person on the wetlands, but Marianne, maybe you could answer. The additional groundwater investigation is pretty significant. And I know it's only, I did read through the narrative. We already have done, I don't know, like 5 wells back there, if I'm not mistaken. So this is quite a bit more for just 2 additional wells. So what's the?
It's a day of drilling, so up to 5 wells.
Oh, I see. So there might be more than just
right.
2.
Yes. Yeah, okay. It's up to 5 additional wells.
Okay.
You know, so that, you know, they might put some in the direction of private wells. So because the west side of the property is bordered by private residences, and then they might put more towards the north, you know, headed north from 49. So, you know.
So that makes more sense then. Okay, I missed that. And let me just see what else about the groundwater. Those wells are, if those wells are not dug, we don't get charged, right? So we're just billed, this is an upside figure. Is
right.
that correct?
Right.
All right. So it's not a flat fee, but rather when we get invoices.
But it's a day of drilling. I mean, I think they really do intend to go out there and spend a day drilling and put in up to 5 wells. And it's really, you know, it depends. So I've learned a lot about this well drilling thing now, and sometimes a well is drilled fast, and sometimes a well is drilled slow, and sometimes they have to stop and try a different location. So it's really the day of drilling.
So it's about the time that they're spending out there as opposed to how many wells. Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you for that explanation. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions regarding the task amendment 7 for $43,800? Kind of mind-boggling. No. Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the expenditure of $43,800 in ARPA funds for task amendment 07 as presented in the proposal by Fuss and O'Neill?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any additional questions? I just want to ask April, what's the timing on the wetland NOI?
Upon approval, the goal would be to submit within a month or so. So really as soon as possible, but I think a month would be sufficient to prepare the notice of intent.
And you don't have to wait on any further, like for the snow to be all gone or anything like that for the NOI?
No, I do not believe so.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, Mary Lou, did you have a question?
Hi, yes. I was hoping to be able to speak before you voted. And I was just going to say that with the opera funds, before it completely runs out, I'm hoping that the school roof is replaced in its entirety. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move along. The next item on the agenda are select board emails. And there was one email I wanted to mention. And then Becky, I think there was something else that you might want to highlight. So we had received an email from Diane Jacoby regarding having some sort of, let me see if I can summarize it here, of having some sort of sessions, like listening sessions, and for the select board to oversee. And I just wanted to get a sense from you, Eric and Melissa, about whether or not this is something that you think we want to undertake now. This would be in addition to our regular meetings, is what she's proposing, based on that we're doing a disservice by continuing to ignore how the library issue divides the people in Shutesbury.
I think having a listening session, it might be a good idea. So we will know where people are coming from on whatever opinion they have of it. How to structure that, I'm not sure. I mean, it could be people throwing out ideas and we're, jotting down, right? It could be something very simple and like that, but, sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I didn't interrupt you. I was going to say, it seems to me this is an issue that's been going on for decades. So, I mean, in plenty of listening sessions on both sides, or if you want to call them sides. I don't appreciate the fact that there's that divide, but my sense is there is realistically. And I'm just not sure what any of this would really accomplish, except to probably amp things up a little bit more. That would be my feeling.
Okay. I guess I had a couple of reactions to this, and I was offended by that we are doing a disservice, because I don't think we are ignoring, we are not the, we're not driving the library construction that was voted by town meeting, and town meeting is where people have an opportunity both to speak their minds and to vote on whether or not the town is going to approve the expenditure of funds. And I also am offended by the suggestion that we don't foster and nurture a strong, vibrant, and healthy community, which I think we do. That's why we're here every 2 weeks. And that's why we each individually spend a lot of time outside of meetings, doing things, going to other meetings, really looking out for the community. So, at this juncture, I personally could not commit to any kind of regular sessions. I don't see that they would be particularly constructive, that they might be destructive. The town has spoken. We do have annual town meeting. We have other ways of individuals communicating, both through, not just through our brief public comment period, but people are free to send us emails. So, I couldn't commit to doing this right now. I probably spend 10 or 12 hours a week right now on select board business. And I don't feel it would be particularly constructive.
I will ditto that. Maybe not the 10 or 12 hours. I think Rita, you do more than the rest of us. There's no question in my mind about that, but I don't think it's not our job. You're right. The town meeting voted for this to happen. Our job is to make sure it happens. If anything, even if we didn't like this, if we personally didn't like the idea of building a library, that's still our job.
That's right.
So I'm also sort of, one thought I was a little concerned about was the idea of having a trained facilitator, quote unquote. I'm thinking like, we're going to spend more money on this than we're already spending. What's a trained facility? They're going to do this for nothing? I don't think so. And I don't know, no, I agree. We spend enough time, and we have spent enough time as a town and yeah, I think I said what I meant to say.
So Becky, can you respond to Diane Jacoby and just summarize the tonight's discussion? Thank you.
Okay.
What was I know there was one other email, Becky, that
I think it ended up being the web update from Gail Fleischecker. So it ends up being an agenda item. It's business. It's not an inquiry other than business.
Okay.
And what I had hoped to request is that what we had at some different points, there's been more of an automatic response for all our emails, just so that the person sending the emails knows for sure we've seen them. It's very difficult for the select board because they can't write an opinion or a response to emails without meeting first. So I just wanted to read what we used to use that Melissa forwarded to me. It says, good afternoon, good evening, whoever it is. Thank you for your email. This reply is to acknowledge receipt. Due to the state's open meeting law, the select board is unable to confer outside a public meeting, so we cannot officially respond at this time. Enjoy your day. So I just wanted to suggest that if we could start using that on emails, that we can't have a definitive black or white answer, or if it's not just about logistics or scheduling, select board can't answer. Just so people hear from us before the 2-week delay of meetings.
Rita, since you do spend a lot of time, if you want that to happen, I don't mind going in every other day or every couple of days and send those out. I used to do it when I was chair, so you don't have to add that task onto your list.
Okay, that would be great. Or Geneva, if
okay.
It makes sense. Maybe Becky, you can tell us if you want Melissa to do it.
I would really appreciate if Melissa can do it. We're finding, I think Geneva's job is now full-time, and so any assistance we can get from others would be helpful. Thank you.
And it only takes a few minutes here and there, so I don't mind, Rita.
Okay, great. I guess the only other thing, going back to Diane's email with regard to the agenda, if a townsperson wants to get an article, get a item on the select board agenda, they can submit that to the select board, and between me and the town administrator, we will determine the appropriateness for inclusion on the agenda for the meeting. So please incorporate that too, Becky. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the COLA report, and I think I saw George Arvanitis here. George, are you speaking for the Finance Committee tonight?
Unless Susie wants to. Yeah, I'll speak for the Finance Committee.
Okay.
And the Personnel Board.
And the Personnel Board. Right.
Yeah, Personnel Board developed the formula.
Right. So the Personnel Board, the Finance Committee, in cooperation with the Select Board, it was really the three of us. Historically, we would have this annual meeting where the three committees would convene, and we would talk about what's the appropriate increase to recommend in the budget for the upcoming year. And it wasn't really scientific in the method that, in our conversations, it sometimes even got a little political. And so it was really difficult to sometimes come up with a rate We certainly tried for consensus, but there wasn't always consensus. So we talked about alternative methods for the long run. And this was 3 years ago, I think we had really started this. And I think everybody agreed that it made sense to tie the annual COLA to inflation, or I should say, the CPI, the consumer price indexes that are published by the Fed. And so I put together, with the help of some other people, we put together kind of a model to use, presented it to the 3 committees, and everybody was enthusiastic about it. We really liked it. And it was mostly the personnel board that put it together, really. They were spearheading it. But we presented it to the finance committee and the select board, and everybody agreed that it was a good way to go and that we would do it for 3 years. And this will be the 3rd year. And then on every 3-year basis, the personnel board would review it, see what kind of an impact it's had at various levels, budgetary, supervisory, and see if we want to stick to it. Do we want to modify it? We decided at the personnel board meeting, not maybe the last one, but the one prior, that we would analyze it next year before we put together a recommendation for a COLA for fiscal 25. We're going to do an analysis of it and see how it's really worked for the town. Again, at multiple levels, financially, competitively with other towns, and what it's meant for managers and their staff. So that said, we base the increase that we're going to recommend on the January CPI. That gives the finance committee an opportunity to look at that and then build it into the proposed budget, which, Becky, I assume at this point you have used the rate that we came up with. And that's really what we're doing, is we're coming up with a COLA rate. And now the policy is essentially, what we do is we look at that percentage change in the index from year to year, January to January. And we take the last 3 years changes from January to January. So for instance, I'll tell you that for fiscal 24, we are recommending a 3% pay increase based on this model. And the way we got to that 3% was we took the COLA changes for this year from last year, the previous year from the previous year, and so on. And that added up to 9%. The 3 of them combined were 9%. It was, I'm sorry, one year was 1%, and last year was 4%, and this year was 4%. Came up to 9, divided by 3. That's how we get the 3%. Let me just step back a second and just say that the policy says take the average of the last 3 years, but when we take those rates for each year, we put minimum and maximum amounts on those. In other words, if the inflation rate was below 1%, we decided that the factor we would use for any year would never be less than 1%. So in the first year of our analysis, actually, could I take the screen and show everybody the spreadsheet?
You have it, George.
Okay, I think that would make it easier for me, because I'm obviously tripping over my words here. I apologize. Give me 1 second. I'll show everybody. Okay, so everybody can see a spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the COLA for 24. The policy I was describing to you is right here. It's basically just documented. What we're using is the CPI index for New England urban consumers. That's the one we all decided was the most appropriate, most similar to what our situation is. I'm going to skip this section real quick. And I'm just going to come down here. Here's the CPI information that I found on the web this year. This was the federal government's website. And these are the indexes that we're using every year. We use the January numbers, and you can see how they increase year to year. And so the actual calculation happens here. And so these numbers here, 105, 112, 118, next to 21, 22, 23, are these same numbers right here. So very simply, last year was at 112, this year it's 118. So that's an increase of 5.52. Previous year relative to the year before that was 659. And then this year, 2001 relative to 20 was 0.61. our policy states that when a CPI for a given year is less than 1%, 1% will be applied for that year. When the policy, when the CPI for a given year is more than 4%, we will apply no more than 4%. 4% will be applied for that year. So obviously the last 2 years, we've seen some pretty hefty inflation, but we are limiting the amount of the increase to 4% for those years. And then the previous year it was less than 1%. So this is how I got the 9 that divides by 3 to get 6%. So this is essentially using science, if you will, using data out there with that is tied to, you know, a pretty reasonable indicator of how the cost of living for the employees is affected. And one thing I will tell you about this, just to give you a little analysis about it, minor analysis, is it lags a bit. So you can see we've had pretty high inflation the last couple of years. The employees are not really getting the full benefit of that. If next year inflation goes down below 4%, the average will still be propped up by these 2 years. So as inflation starts to go down, the pay increases that the employees will get in those future years might be a little higher than what inflation is in those particular years. But that was also the case in reverse for this first year where you saw inflation was growing, but the average was staying a little low. By the way, these are the increases we had in the budgets for the previous years. So for fiscal 22, in 21, we recommended a 1.75 increase, and that was in the budget for fiscal 22. In this current year, fiscal 23, the increase was 2.42. So you can see it lags what the inflation is. And now what we're recommending for the upcoming year is 3%. At some point, these inflation numbers will start to drop, and this average each year will start to drop, but not at the same rate. Probably more information than I need to provide.
So, George, I just want to make sure this was just by way of the Finance Committee and Personnel Committee letting us know where you guys are in terms of the cost of living adjustment that's being incorporated into the budget.
Yes, yeah, this is the basis for the increase that the Finance Committee is going to recommend for salary lines.
Questions, Melissa or Eric?
No.
Thanks, George. I think I was on the Finance Committee. No, maybe not. Maybe I was just getting off the Finance Committee. But I recall the discussions that used to happen with the COLAs kind of every year, and it was crazy. As you say, it was kind of all over the place. Having this sort of having a science to it is really makes so much more sense. And just like not arguing on the regional school budget every year about the statutory method, this really simplifies the process and is based on data and what's going on out there. So I'm very comfortable with it.
And like I said, just to reiterate, Personnel Board is going to look at it next year. So a year from now, we can have a conversation about, how we feel it's working for the town.
Great, good. So hearing no questions, I think we will move along in our agenda. Thank you, George, for that presentation. Okay, so next we have 2 firefighters to be appointed who've been recommended and have been interviewed. And let me just make sure everybody's here. So Paul Britt, I'm pretty sure I saw him. Lenny,
should be good. I just unmuted, so hopefully that's good.
Okay. And Lenny, our fire chief, is here. And so do we have Isaac and Paul both here?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just my wife's computer.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Yeah.
All right, great. So why don't we start with Paul? If you just want to introduce yourself and tell us real briefly about why you want to be a firefighter in Shutesbury.
Okay. Well, I've lived up here for going on 3 years now. I've gotten to know all the guys that are on the department. get along with everybody well. And in the winter time, just because of the work I do, I have a huge chunk of time that's pretty much unused. It seems like the last storm, car accidents, a lot of things that the fire department responds to are during the winter. So I have the free time. I've got a lot of the skills that are applicable to what you have to do. I still need to, partake in the training, but, I'm just looking for something to fill some of that free time. And, summer, spring, and fall, I still have some free time, but not as much as that winter block. So.
Thank you, Paul. Eric or Melissa, do you have any questions for Paul?
No, I don't.
Great to have people stepping up.
Yeah, it is.
That's not a question, but I agree with it.
Okay. And then Isaac.
Yeah, I've been here for just about a year and a half, close getting on 2 years. And I just see it as a really invaluable way to, be a part of the community. I drive past the station every day going to work. I work at UMass Amherst as an academic advisor. And I saw the sign out and it said no experience required. And I just thought that, it's flexible, but also it's a really incredible opportunity to assist the community and become an integral part in the community, to get more involved. And, I've been going to trainings for a few months now and, feel like, part of the brotherhood. And, it is a very strong force and I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Okay, great. Lenny, is there anything you want to add?
Both firefighters, Paul and Isaac, are both quick learners. They get along well with everybody, and I'm really happy that they're joining the team.
Okay, great. Questions, Melissa, Eric?
I have none.
Okay. So we'll take these one at a time. Do I hear a motion to appoint Paul Britt as a Shutesbury firefighter?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Do I hear a motion to appoint Isaac Goldstein as a Shutesbury firefighter?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Aye. Well, congratulations. It's great to see people stepping up to be on the Shutesbury Fire Department. So
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't of service for the last storm.
Yeah.
It's a true test of your mettle.
Yeah, congratulations.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is just briefly updating everybody on the Highway Department Memorandum of Understanding. This was an MOU that was executed back in 2014 with the Highway Superintendent and the Conservation Commission, and sort of come to find out when we looked, this was being used to it came up as a result of issues that the Conservation Commission raised regarding some removal of storm debris from the side of the road. And when I talked about it with our town council, she basically said that it really, the MOU doesn't really have any standing. It was not executed by the select board. It was not executed by members, by the whole Conservation Commission, the Highway Superintendent. The Highway Department is under our jurisdiction. If you're executing any kind of a an agreement that's then, legal agreement that then's being used to enforce rules, it should have the power of the, it should have been done by the, by the select board. You can't, as an employee, kind of sign agreements. So, I think the Conservation Commission is, interested and has talked to the select board in the past about getting some sort of an agreement, kind of a blanket order of conditions, so that every time the highway department goes out and needs to work in an area where there are wetlands or in a buffer zone, that that the hands of the highway department are not tied, because very often it's an emergency, removing trees from the road, and could very well, be either located, the base located within a wetland, or within a buffer zone. So what I want to do is, and this has been discussed with the highway department, the Conservation Commission chair, is for the select board to put together a kind of blanket notice of intent that would then result in an order of conditions that that would be very clear to the highway department when they needed to confer with the Conservation Commission, or what work they could do without having to go back to the Conservation Commission. And I know they've been talking about this in light of their bylaw and regulations too. So we have a lot on our plate, more than I'd like to see. I think, within the next couple of months, we can begin to shape something, look at what other communities have done, and then work with the Conservation Commission and the Highway Department, so that we can reach consensus about, a reasonable, logical, safe way of dealing with the Highway Department work and our wetlands bylaw. So this was just by way of kind of an update. Okay. You, Melissa, and Eric. And if anybody wants to volunteer to, what I'm going to try to do is get some samples and see if we can do this without a consultant. We are just, pushing the limits here, and it's getting kind of out of hand, the amount of money that we're spending. So ideally, we are able to do this in-house without any additional consulting expense.
Could we do this like multiple of us together in a working meeting, so to speak, or is that a violation of open meeting law? Or
I've been on past select boards where we've done a working session, like we did on a Saturday morning, just because it happened that way. But we've done that, Becky, right? We did that a couple of times as a select board in my early days. Yeah.
I think the issue with this is we are gonna, if we can find people that have background in wetlands and in Conservation Commission
and highway
law and highway. Well, yeah, I think we need to find, if we can put together a team, it's got to be a very particular team. And I'm not to insult you, Eric, I don't know if you have the skills.
No, I'm not even that. Did I say I was one of those people? No. but no, I'm just wondering, we're talking about not spending so much money. I'm just wondering if that's one way to do it. That's all.
Maybe we could find some volunteers in town.
Yeah,
I think if we can start with a template that we get from another community that seems to make sense. that would be a good way to go. So it's something that we want to undertake. And again, at no additional expense to the town. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is website policy update from the web committee. And I see Gail Fleischaker here with us this evening. Gail, are you prepared to present?
Yes. I sent the select board and Becky the proposed bylaw. Could you pull that up for a screen share and then I can go through it? This came about really was prompted by a request from Broadband to have their material on WordPress rather than Drupal, which they found very frustrating to deal with. But what that meant was that their whatever pages they wanted would not be on the town website anymore. So the question then became, what is required to be on the town website as official policy or official presentation, and what can be off website? And what the committee came to was a realization that all the boards, committees, and commissions have a page which has the official announcement, basically. Most of them have the charge, but as a minimum, they have the members, the contact information, a place where the minutes are posted. And that format is maintained by the web committee. And but that was not made explicit anywhere. So in answering the question from, oh, this doesn't have the highlights. Okay.
I have the one with highlights, Becky. I can share it.
Well, this it's easy to say. The second paragraph, town boards, commissions, committees, and departments shall have base pages on the town website, which is what I just said, really. Member lists, contact information, and links to minutes on the base page are maintained by the web committee and the town clerk. And then if the select board, if the Broadband, for instance, wanted to put their FAQs on a WordPress that was related to the MLP, not the committee, that would be legit. That would be okay, which is basically what this is. And the web committee would not be maintaining those sites at all, nor if there's a cost to those sites, that would not constitute a town expense. They're not any longer town official pages. That was understood and totally accepted. But what we did was to insert this paragraph here just to make that explicit, because they could say, someone could say, well, the library has a separate page or the school has a separate page. Both of those came around under very particular circumstances. And the committees that oversee those two operations are on the town website as official. So the school committee and the board of trustees are both official, either boards or committees, and they are on the town website, although the particulars of the operation are elsewhere. So it's consistent with that pattern, really, where the broadband as the committee would have a presence on the town website, and any of the pages they want for the operation of the MLP could be off-site. The third paragraph in establishing web links was simply lower on the page, and we brought it up here to follow in a logical sequence from the beginning of the statement of the policy. Those are the only changes.
Okay, Gail, do you need us to, I assume this is just a policy that you adopt and therefore you're notifying us of this? You don't need any.
No, we need your approval.
Oh, we do, okay.
Yes, so this is a proposed revision of the standing select board policy on website.
I see, okay, so it's our, it's our policy, but it was drafted by the-
Correct.
Committee. Okay. Questions, Eric or Melissa?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say, maybe I'm just missing it, I haven't read it in great detail. it seems like all those websites mentioned, like the library, the school, the broadband, should have a link on the town website. That should
absolutely. Yeah.
Is that mentioned somewhere in here that that's sort of required from them?
No, we talk about links and where they can go and where they, old policy was that there could not be links at all to anything other than our own committees. And that was changed very quickly. Well, not quickly, a few years ago, to allow connection to state and federal websites, and also for information purposes. And that's contained in that third paragraph there. So yes, there would be links from the town website pages to their pages offsite.
Well, my point is, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that third paragraph does not require them to have that link, right? That's what I'm suggesting, is that those links be required. But if you go to the town website, to school, you get the committee members or all the things that are mentioned there, and then you also get a link to the school website that's not this website, for example.
That would be on the broadband page, yes.
Right. So it seems like another sentence should be in here requiring that to be the case. Is that not true?
I don't think so. I think it's covered with, I mean, they're going to want to have some way for readers to connect, and the link is the only way to do that from.
And you're the web committee is the one that sets that up, correct?
Correct.
You establish it. So I think.
Oh, okay. All right. So it'll be happening there. Okay, that'll work. As long as it is sort of required that it happen, it seems to me that makes the most sense.
Okay, so that could be considered under the website, Web Communications Committee, maintenance of those pages.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Good
that
point.
Would work fine.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Gail, just curious, was the MLP was comfortable with this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. They just wanted clarity on it, and they've got very long pages, and I had suggested a way to deal with that, and they found dealing with Drupal just beyond their patience. So they have somebody apparently on the board who either knows or knows somebody who knows how to operate WordPress pages. So they were wanting to go that way.
Okay, great. All right, so do I hear a motion to approve policy number 020618 for the
as
webpage.
Revised.
As revised, yes.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Errol, aye. And thank you, Gail, for all the work. I mean, everything. I know you've been really vigilant about keeping the web pages up to date and holding our feet to the fire to make sure everything is up to date, and that is really appreciated.
Good.
Yep. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a declaration of the snow emergency. And Becky, can you explain what this means?
Becky, you should share your screen.
So I can.
There you go.
Here we go. So every year we gauge our performance by the highway department against how quickly we go through our snow materials and snow labor lines. This year we are approaching the end of our materials budget. We still have, I haven't checked since this past week's storm. We don't have that record yet. So that also may be at the maximum. But as we are about to spend more than we have available in our snow removal materials line, I am requesting that the select board vote a state of emergency because of snow, so that we can overspend that line if we need to complete snow removal for the year.
Okay, questions, Eric or Melissa?
I'm surprised we haven't had to do this more often. That's not a question though.
No more snow.
Just observation.
We decree tonight, no more snow, no more ice.
Yeah, no more snow. No, we know that.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to declare a snow emergency in Shutesbury?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Carol, aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Most welcome. The next item on the agenda is to just review briefly a opinion that was received regarding the Shutesbury's local wetland bylaw. And just a little bit of background, the town hired outside counsel, firm of McGregor et al. To assist the town in permitting and other issues regarding Lot 032. And the principal in that firm, Greg McGregor, strongly suggested to me and to the town that he review in the course of preparing materials for the last NRAD hearing, that he review our existing wetlands, our local bylaw. So there is the State Wetlands Protection Act, and then Shutesbury has a bylaw that was enacted, I think it was about 1987, 35 years ago. And we received an email from McGregor, and he raised a number of issues regarding the bylaw, real concerns about legality. And I attended the Conservation Commission meeting last week because I was under the impression, what I had heard was that the Conservation Commission was going to start looking at the bylaw, but in fact, the discussion and what the Conservation Commission is moving ahead with is looking at the regulations and revising the regulations based on the bylaw. So we have this fairly detailed email from McGregor that I just wanted to mention to the select board. You haven't seen it. We are going to, we'll get forwarded to you and to the Conservation Commission. And basically the advice that we have received from this attorney who's really the preeminent attorney in Massachusetts regarding wetlands bylaws and regulations is that our bylaw be updated before we do regulations, because there are some fundamental flaws in our existing bylaw. So we had put this on the agenda a little bit late. At this juncture, I don't think it's necessary to have a meeting with the Conservation Commission, but rather to forward this guidance along and ask that the commission not move any further along in their regulations until the bylaw is brought into where it should be. Okay. Questions?
Just plain stupid. What do we need this bylaw if there's already? I mean, is this bylaw in addition to the state bylaw? It is, right? But I mean, do we need it? I mean, is the state bylaw not encompassing enough, or do we know that? Or
I can't pass judgment on that.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, nor am I really conversant on the local bylaw. I know that a lot of communities have a bylaw have a local bylaw in addition to the State Wetlands Protection Act. You know, it has been, we've had one in Shutesbury, and I think, you know, it's really, it's not up to us. It's up to town.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that. Just as a point of fact, does our bylaw preclude the state bylaw, or was it after this? In other words, ours has been in effect since 1987. Was theirs already in effect when we put it in effect? Or was,
there was a state Wetlands Protection Act, and this bylaw expands the powers for wetland protection. Other questions, Melissa or Eric? Les, I'll take a quick question.
Not a question, just a clarification for Eric. The state wetlands bylaw, you know, state wetlands regulations, excuse me, you know, are updated, modified, you know, from year, you know, every few years. But that's the base set that all municipalities have to work with, the state regulations. And the legislature has also empowered municipalities to pass their own wetlands bylaw to supplement the state wetlands regulations. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Les.
Thank you, thanks.
What the next step is to pass this opinion on to the Select Board, as well as the Conservation Commission. And you know, my recommendation would be is that I know that the Conservation Commission has asked for legal funds to review the regulations, that we don't spend any funds reviewing regulations based on a flawed bylaw. So that I would incorporate that into my correspondence.
I agree
along with McGregor's opinion.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, let's move along. So the next item is a PFAS update. Becky?
Okay. Well, this week we have been, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I have been going out with Sam Evans from Tie & Bond to do testing in individual homes. And as of last weekend, we are within two homes of testing all the non-vacant buildings that were on the map that was submitted with by Tie & Bond with our IRA. So we are very close to completion of the first round of testing. We have been busy. When the lab reports come in, we package them up with data reports that are being done by Tie & Bond. And we, in-house, we're preparing all the letters. This round of letters that the public is receiving detail the results from the test, and also alert a family if the town will be moving ahead with installation of a POET filter. POET being a personal
point of
entry filter. So the point of entry filter will be installed in all homes that do not come back with a non-detect reading. So far, we are looking at the installation of 15 new single POETs and 3 new dual POETs, not counting the filters we've already installed that will have to move from single to dual poets. Installation has started this week. I believe today was the first installation, and tomorrow we'll have a couple more. It will be rolling out for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll have to retest and be sure that the poets that have been installed are functioning appropriately. Another change that has occurred during this period is there have been some positive hits, PFAS recorded in homes that either didn't previously show any PFAS, as well as a few homes that hadn't yet been tested did show positive for PFAS. The result of this is to extend the map out. I'm awaiting the new map, and with that will be an assignment to test a number of new homes, probably about 3 more homes along Pelham Hill Road. So the work continues daily. I'm very hopeful in testing the last 2 homes that we have not yet been able to, either due to individuals needing more information or their work being outside of Shutesbury. So in the coming weeks, we hope to settle that and test the remaining homes, continue installation of the poets. At this point, we have been doing a lot of work in-house to get the letters out. We get them out probably within the 30-day limit, but there's a lot of material. If you do receive a letter and have questions, please don't hesitate to call. The data reports are might be confusing for some people, and I'm happy to help you if you have trouble reading the spreadsheet data reports as well. This is an ongoing process, as you all know, and we are doing our best to make sure that anyone that has had a reading is either provided bottled water or is on the list to quickly have a new poet installed. And that's my report for today. We am getting up on the website a number of reports from that I've been given that are informational, as well as what we filed with the DEP. Last Friday was the deadline for our second IRA incident report that was filed with DEP. You can find, if you're interested, that report will be available on the town website, or you can go to DEP to review it. And that's all I have for tonight, Rita, on PFAS.
Eric, Melissa, do either of you have any questions?
No, only a thank you for all that work.
Yes, I agree with that.
Becky, I don't want to pile on anything else, but I'm wondering whether or not it makes sense to have, some sort of Q&A on the town website about the PFAS situation, because a lot of people don't come to these meetings and then misinformation gets put out there, and the town has taken some steps working both, obviously working with DEP and also with the Clean Water Trust in talking about, potential long-term solutions. So we applied for some Clean Water Trust money. So if we could think about how to, again, without
on basic information, what I'm going to be putting up is their basic questions and answers about PFAS that I've received from our LSP, Jeffrey Arps. So I think that'll be really helpful to get that information up. And then I can work on a more individual to our circumstances, how the town is approaching it, and answer questions along those lines. But I think he's gone to the core of the concerns in the documents he has given me that he helped put together for another community. So I think
Okay,
once you
great.
see those, review those, then we can talk about it some more and see what else.
That would be great. Is that something that's going to happen relatively soon?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been trying to get to it.
And I have one more question because I don't know if I heard. So once we have sort of a reading at a certain point, then we have to go out another 500 feet. Is that correct?
Correct. So basically you have to go out 500 feet from the last positive test.
And so that means how many more tests have to be done?
In this case, it's, I think, 3 more tests, but I haven't gotten, he just mentioned that that was coming and he was working on the map adjustment in an email, I think Monday. So we'll know as soon as we receive the new map.
Les, if you have a really quick question, because we're reaching the end, I know Becky has another meeting at 6:30. So do you have a quick question?
Really, really quick. I applaud the Q&A. I applaud all the efforts that Becky has been putting into this. I mean, you've been going the extra mile in terms of your own time and effort. I still think that more can be done. And I'm wondering whether or not you can get a volunteer from the town to help put in narrative form these updates that I know that I, as a town citizen, would really like to know, both from a public health perspective and a financial aspect in terms of what it's costing the town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Okay. Again, Becky, I assume you have to leave at 6:30 for Finance Committee. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So
I can wrap up the updates very quickly.
Okay, great.
Okay, so as everyone was aware, last week we were pummeled with snow. We had about 2 feet of snow. Our highway department was down with the flu. They battled back and got our town cleaned up. We had a major amount of falling limbs, causing a lot of power outages and power surges. 80% of the town lost power for 24 hours, which is exceptional. Usually it's smaller parts of town, but to have everybody down, it was because there was a tree down at the Pratt Corner Power Station. The town has suffered damage. The town hall mini split in the finance office no longer is working. Door openers at the fire station and the mini split at the fires, well, 2 mini splits at the fire station are no longer functioning. We have the school generator. While it came on and operated, normally it did not turn off, and the transfer switch to the generator is no longer functioning. At this point in time, we're hoping for no more power outages because we had to hardwire the electricity past the transfer switch, so we don't have the capacity of using the transfer switch until this issue is resolved and fixed. Pechoric Electric was out as soon as we understood the problem. They are working on it. The insurance adjuster was out on Monday. We have been approved for most of we will get coverage, which we're very appreciative of because there's an element in the policy that says power surges are not insured. So because of all the other conditions involved, we will get coverage for all these problems the town is facing. And that is the biggest issue I wanted to report on for the town's updates.
Okay, thank you, Becky. And we are going to be meeting again in a week. Right. This meeting got delayed. One thing I just mentioned about the power surge, I know a lot of people had a lot of damage, and when we did a bunch of electrical work on our house a few years ago, they recommended us putting in a whole house surge protector as opposed to the little strips that you use by your equipment. So it might be something we want to think about. I know it was a few $100s, but I think it definitely, I know it saved us a lot of damage. So
the other thing too, I luckily didn't, I did have a slight problem here. The electrician advised this is kind of an idea. If the lights go out, turn off the main thing to your house until the lights come back on and then turn it back on. So you don't end up with a surge if you don't have a protector. So that was his.
I think it happened in the middle of the night though.
Yeah, well, it could. Yeah.
158 it happened, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
so is the power company not liable for any of this? Because I know in the past, I remember once something burned out here in our house. I can't remember what it was, years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And the power company paid for it. They made good on it. So
if we did not get the insurance coverage from the, because the insurance company said it was a power surge, we would be going to the national grid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 6:30. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make peace, O'Neill, aye.
Stucker.